What's up, guys? Thanks for joining me. This is the Whiteboard Breakdown for April 24th. The equipment you will need for today's workout will be one dumbbell, one kettlebell, or if you do have a barbell, we'll have a substitution for that as well. For our warm-up, we're starting off with an 8-minute EMOM. We're doing 30 seconds of work, 30 seconds of rest, and then switching to the next exercise. Okay, we have 4 exercises we'll roll through, and we'll do 2 rounds. So first one, inch run push-ups. Walking our hands out into a push-up plank. We'll do 1 push-up, and then walk our hands back towards our feet. You can hang out in that hamstring stretch if you're feeling a little tight. As we get to that second round, we'll speed it up just a little bit more. Right when you finish those inch run push-ups, we're doing bootstrap squats, hanging out at the bottom of our squat, and then elevating our hips into a hamstring stretch. Going back and forth from each position, just pausing for a second or two each one. So for the next one, we have American swings. So we got a kettlebell. I only have a light kettlebell since we rented out all of our equipment. So thinking of American swing only if you have a light kettlebell. We'll do Russian swings if you have too heavy of a kettlebell to go directly overhead on the first one, or you may not be able to go overhead at all. Okay, so American swings, we're gonna hike that bell, go all the way overhead, and then right back into our swing. Okay, Russian swings will just go about chest to shoulder level. So if you have a really heavy bell, stick with the Russian. If you have a very light bell, to get some of that shoulder work in, you can go American. Last one we have is sit-ups. So just butterflying our feet out, tap over the head, and then tap our toes. Trying to get our shoulders just in line with that. Our hips are over. And then we'll do 1 more round of that 30-30, starting back with our inch runs. Then we're going into a little bit of mobility, starting off with our hip flexor rocks. So we're trying to get 90 degrees at our hips and our knees. To start, tuck our hips underneath, then we're gonna drive that hip forward. Should feel that in that hip flexor and quad right in the front of my leg. We're gonna rock back to let it relax, and then go right back into the stretch. You're gonna do 10 on the right, 10 on the left. Next one, you can hold on to something if you need to here. If you know your hips and ankles are really tight. We're gonna get to the bottom of our squat. From here, we're gonna rock and put a lot of weight on the ball of that foot. So I'm putting pressure on my knee to put pressure on the ball of my foot. I should feel a nice stretch in the back of that ankle. And then I'm just gonna rock to the other side, holding for about 5 seconds on each side. If the bottom of the squat is too much and your hips won't let you do it, you can also just put that knee down and then just lean into it. Okay, so almost like you're in a little bit of a lunge or crouch. Okay. For our strength section today, we have a squat challenge. So for this one, we are going to test this one today, and then we're going to try to retest this along our 6-week focus to go along with our running and our handstand work. Okay, we have an 8-minute EMOM with 3 different options of time domains depending on how much weight we have. Okay, so for our first option, if you do not have any equipment or any weight, any odd object to use, your time domain is going to be 40 seconds of work, 20 seconds of rest, and then repeating that for 8 total rounds. Okay, so with that 40 seconds, we are trying not to rest at all through that 40 seconds, and we are trying to fly through that. This will be recorded as what weight we do, so if it's body weight, obviously you have no weight to record, and then it's just gonna be for how many reps you can get in that 8 rounds. And as we retest, we'll see if we can beat that number. Your second option, the time domain is gonna change into 30 seconds of work, 30 seconds of rest, but now we're adding a little bit of weight to it. So if you do have a bar or a dumbbell kettlebell that's around maybe 25% of your body weight, this is where we kind of want to be for our 30-30. So with this, we have anything front rack. So it can be a goblet hold with our kettlebell. If we have a barbell, it will be in that front rack. And here, we're gonna be a little bit more methodical because we do have a little bit more resistance than just body weight. So our tempo is gonna be moving, but it may not be at that hyper speed that we're doing for our body weight. So we may be down, lock out, down, lock out, okay? After a round or two, if you feel like that's very doable with that 30 seconds of recovery time, then start to pick up that pace and start to burn. So after our 4th round, we should have a great idea about how many reps we can do in that 30 seconds. Last option is now adding a good bit of weight here. So this is going to be with a barbell, or if you do have enough to create 50%, of your body weight with dumbbells or kettlebells. We're gonna do 20 seconds of work, 40 seconds of rest. Okay, so if you do have a barbell, you can do the option of doing front rack here or on your back, depending on with which one you feel comfortable with. With a back squat, you may even be able to go over 50% here, depending on how those warm-up sets feel. Okay, it's only 20 seconds, so you'll probably get in between the 5 to 8 range. So while we're warming up for this, no matter if it's on the back, the front, or if we have 2 dumbbells, 2 kettlebells, you should be able to get 10 reps pretty smoothly when we're not taking a short amount of rest and repeating it for 8 total rounds. So think about that as we're selecting our weight. We want it around 50%, especially for the front squat, but if you're on your back, you can go over that 50% mark. Just make sure we're consistent with the first time we test it, and then as we test it through the 6 weeks, so that we can see our improvement and that we're staying at the same exact weight, but beating that rep count after those 8 rounds are finished. Our Metcon for the day is going to be an 18-minute AMRAP. Our 18-minute AMRAP, so as many rounds as we can do of these 3 different movements. I will explain first the as-written version, and then I'll give you some modifications off of that depending on the equipment that we have available. So as it's written, we have 10 V-ups, 20 alternating dumbbell clean and jerks, and then 30 kettlebell swings. So if we're doing this version, 10 V-ups should be all unbroken. Okay, so as we're doing our V-up, we start in that hollow, nice and quick. We should be able to get 10 unbroken there every single round, no matter what round we're on. Okay, you can still breathe there, we can still move through all 10, maybe a little bit, tiny bit of like a breath as we come out from the top. You should go right back in. Every single rep, get 10 done. Then the clean and jerks, depending on how heavy this weight is for us. So if we're using a 50 pounder for a guy, and that's pretty heavy for us, we may try to shoot to get to 10, and then take a little breather and then do the other 10. Or we can knock these out all unbroken as well, using that alternating as our little bit of a pause. So I will only have a kettlebell, no dumbbell. So as I clean into the rack from here, push, and then press it overhead. This weight's heavy, I can also go from that full deadlift, I clean it, and then I jerk underneath it if I need to, okay? If the weight's not that heavy, push, press it overhead, quick switch to the other side. Okay, so think about weight selection there. You can, if you have a lightweight, we're increasing that pace. If you have a little bit heavier weight, a little bit more methodical, you might have to use that jerk and then maybe a rest of around 10. Last one we have is kettlebell swings, like I talked about in warm-up. If you have a really heavy bell, don't do American, so don't go overhead, and just do Russian, which is around eye level. Okay, if there's 30 reps, depending on how heavy it is for you here, we could knock out all 30 in a row. If it's not super heavy, 30 in a row is doable, or if you want to do 20, then 10, if that weight's a little bit heavier, just to be able to get a little breath so you can go right into those V-ups with no hesitation. That's also a good strategy. Some of the variations we'll have is, first one, if you have a rig, toes to bar to make those V-ups a little bit more difficult. If we're throwing toes to bar in there, we're probably gonna have to break those up into 5 and 5, because coming off of those kettlebell swings, it's gonna be hard to get that kick because we're just using our hips, so our hips are going to be a little tired from doing those kettlebell swings. If the V-ups are too hard and toes to bar are too hard, we can do sit-ups there as well and just rock out all 10 just like we did for the V-ups. Moving on to the alternating clean and jerk, if we have a barbell, we can make this much heavier than we will with an alternating single bell. 155 for our guys, 105 for our females, and working down from that. So that's the heaviest weight. Don't go over those weights. We want to think about getting this done in either 3 to 4 sets. So breaking that up into 4 sets of 5 is the most that we would want you to do, or just doing heavy singles and working through all 20 reps, 1 rep at a time, but not letting that bar rest for too long. So once I get done with that clean and jerk, I drop the weight down, it starts to settle. I'm already setting up for that next single. So we're not doing 1 single, back away, and then go into another rep. We should be able to get all 20 in a row with singles, or we're doing 5, taking that little bit longer extended break, and then getting back to the bar. Think about as you're warming up to your weight, how that feels. You should be able to get 5 to 10 with the weight that you're doing before you get to the workout, okay? And then kettlebell swings, like we already mentioned, if it's heavy, don't go overhead. And then break it up into maybe 20-10 or 15-15 if that belt is a little on the heavy side. We're shooting for, if you are doing toes to bar and barbell clean and jerks, probably about 4 rounds, somewhere in there, maybe a little less. And then if we are doing the original version, you're probably gonna get into that 5-6 range. If you're really smoking, maybe 7, but then you'd be flying. So good luck, guys. Have an awesome Friday. We'll see you.